What flower has had the biggest impact on the development of society? Undoubtedly, it is the opium poppy. Before it flowers, if you make a cut in it, this white juice oozes out, and that is opium. The main ingredient in there is morphine. And of course, it has been known to have painkilling and euphoria-inducing effects for millennia. The trouble with morphine, though, is that it is addictive. So in the late 1800s, the quest was out to find a version of morphine that was not addictive. The first one was a semi-synthetic opiate called heroin. It was supposed to be heroic, but it wasn't, because it was even more addictive than morphine. Then in the early 1900s, a couple of German chemists had a different idea. They started with one of the other components of opium called thebaine. They chemically modify it slightly, and they came up with something called oxycodone. And oxycodone was a very good pain reliever. Unfortunately, it was still addictive. Nevertheless, it came into widespread use because you could take it every 4 hours and it worked extremely well, although it was addictive. And the historical story is that Hitler was addicted to this stuff, to oxycodone. And his doctor, Theodor Morell, prescribed all kinds of things to Hitler. At the end of his life, he was addicted to oxycodone. Now, the trouble with oxycodone, of course, as with all the opiates, is that they are extremely addictive. So once again, the search was on to find a way to get a painkiller that was long-lasting and less addictive. We're talking about Purdue Pharmaceuticals. And they had an idea. The idea was to try to make oxycodone longer lasting so that you didn't have to take it every 4 hours, only every 12 hours, so that you could actually sleep through the night without any kind of a pain. And they developed a process where the active ingredient was coated with different resins so it would dissolve slowly in the body. But they had another idea, and that was to advertise directly to doctors. And that worked extremely well, and sales took off. The trouble, though, was that it didn't perform as well as they had said. It really didn't last 12 hours, only about 6 to 8, which meant that people had to take the second dose earlier than they should have, and that is just the onset of addiction. And OxyContin, which is the name that was given to this novel drug, is same as oxycodone, except it is released more slowly in the body. But it didn't have the magic that it was claimed to have. And this really played a huge part in the opioid epidemic that we have, especially given the fact that some addicts would take the pills, grind them up, and snort them. And that, of course, is really how you get addicted. So the company decided that they would do something about it, and they came up with a pill under the name, as you can see here, of OxyNeo, which made it very difficult to grind it up so that you couldn't snort it. But nevertheless, it's still addictive. And also the skeptics say that they really came out with this because the patent on the other one was wearing off, so they wanted to get a new drug on the market. And as I said, this played a huge role in the opioid story. And the real problem here is that the company did not tell the truth, which is the reason that I've got my little Pinocchio here. Because you know the story of Pinocchio. Whenever he lied, his nose grew. Well, Purdue Pharma's nose grew very, very long because their salespeople told the doctors that only about 1% of patients got addicted. Not true, and they knew that not to be true. They also told doctors that they could prescribe it for things like pain of wisdom teeth removal and headaches and backaches. This also they knew was not the right way to go. So they fibbed a lot, they got people addicted to their drug, and for that reason there were numerous lawsuits, and they had to pay out billions of dollars in fines. Although the Sackler family's original fortune is still there. So that is the story. going all the way from morphine to OxyContin. And as you can see, these painkillers are like a double-edged sword, because when you're in pain, nothing else matters. You want to get rid of that. On the other hand, obviously, you do not want to become addicted. So the search is still on to find a painkiller that is not addictive and has long-lasting effects. And that is the holy grail of pharmaceutical chemistry.